the outside. Little bit nervous today because today is Monday. And on Mondays, we always pick a new word. I don't even know what the word is going to be. I have my big book of words here. We are on our ninth word. We have done 8 words. And what I do here is each week I kind of do one of these and we pick a word and we get into it. The first day is usually my first perspective because I'm kind of taken by surprise, like I was last week when we got that word purpose. I kind of skim over that word so often, and I think I make more light of it than really what I should. And, some of the lessons that I've gotten last week weren't even in those topics of purpose, at least not in the way that I'm looking at it, the way that I'm seeing it, because I've been looking at a lot of guilt and shame for the past, well, I think we're going into the second week now, but there's lots of things going in my life, that understanding that we only have a small window of opportunities, to have those discussions and clear those eyes or clear those airs and make amends, and sometimes, in our stubbornness and our own ideas of what's right and what's wrong, we can, it maybe this was a topic. I tried to get a couple of lessons in this morning before I started hack away at my editor, you guys. Day number 4. I don't mean to trail off. I was on the subject, but day number 4, totally frustrating, right? But I am learning so much. And that's true. Simple things that I should have already understood and really had a feel for, those syncing of devices and those conflict of interest between the apps, the moving of the programs, the compatibility of programs, simple little aspects like Wi-Fi's and hotspots and, things that I kind of, it works, right? And I kind of figured it out and it works for me, but not really understanding the technical part of it. And in that process of exploring, curiosity, frustration, right? A little bit of let's try this and let's try this. I made a mess of my computer. Last night I came home. I says, today I'm going to reboot this computer. I'm going to start fresh, right? I've never done it before on a laptop, but it needs to be done. Obviously, I've messed with the files or something, right? And without figuring out what the problem is, and I don't know anybody who's technically inclined this way, and without having to go and spend the money, and if I have to download the program again, I have to download the program again. That's just the way it is. I really have made a mess. I worked on it all day today, but in those discoveries, one of those things that I learned to do was stop hidden running programs in my computer, and it wasn't difficult, right? And that's why I'm hoping, and I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful that it's going to happen once I download a fresh Windows, that I'll be able to download my proper movie editing program, and then also have the proper files to put them in. I'm putting them in sub files, right? I'm learning about sub files. I don't know. A file's a file, right? It works until it doesn't work, right? But it's true. In the failing, as we struggle, as we move around, and that frustration should be a good feeling. That frustration should be there because it's indicating that you're striving to figure something out, right? And lots of people aren't even doing that. And I know nothing will open up unless I carry on. And because I committed to re-downloading the program, if I couldn't get it to work, right? I could see I made a mess, but it was kind of hopeful. I could just push one button and all of a sudden, like magic, right? Universe loves me. Something will come into into balance for me. It's been a couple of weeks, right? But these are my days off, and I want to enjoy my days off. And, in that toxic sense of guilt and shame, it's just not in our relationships. It's in ourselves. It's in that idea of, well, I've just lost my train of thought there. I really did lose my train of thought. I was right. And I'll catch it as soon as I come in and I'll just, oh, silly me. But that is what's been going on today. And I needed to take a break. And I says, well, I'm doing my live show. Why not we just do the live show now? Pick a word, get into the word, right? First perspectives, and whether I do a good job or a bad job, right? That's your perspective. That's your prerogative to believe in whatever you want. And this is how I move. And so, I have to give that same respect to others. It's called boundaries, right? My whole life I've had ideas and thoughts and perspectives shoved down my throat and not had a choice in it, right? And I just love this idea that I could go out into the world and I can discover for myself, and I can feel for myself what's true and what's not true, right? And I don't know why I'm flowing into that, because we are picking a word. If you want to pop in and say hi, I would love to have you pop in, join in on the conversation 100%. I have over 60 words here. I'm putting a deck of cards together based out of 54 cards. I have no idea why I picked 54, but we're going with 54 cards. And yeah, because there's only 52 cards in a deck, right? Deck of cards, yeah, 54. It's an odd number, but that was the number that came to me. So I got over 60 words here. We're on word number 9 this week. Give us something light and cheery, but more importantly, if it's not, give us something useful and helpful, right? Or something, if we don't need it now, that, right, miraculously we'll have that information somewheres down the road when we do need it. I find lots of times that I get lessons that I don't quite understand. And then I take a couple of more lessons and then I go, oh, that's what they were talking about. Right? But it's always in the prerequisites. It really is. But right? We sometimes like to skip those lessons. Okay, you guys, let's pick a word here. First perspectives. Let's pick the word and we're going to talk about it all week. This word, learning. Oh my goodness. What a great word for this week. Learning. Because, right? What was it that I just said when I came into this live show? Right? Coincidence or not? Right? In the learning is our movement. In our learning is our expansion. In our learning is our evolution. 100%. And we're always learning. Everybody, evolution doesn't stop until we learn something. It just keeps going. And if we fall behind in that learning, we fall behind. And then that's where you see the different stages of evolution in people, right? It's just because people just haven't gotten that stage yet, right? Now, I love history. I love this idea about evolution, but I also know that there are many parts of us, right? Many parts of us that are concerned with evolution, some parts of us not, right? But it's in that learning process. It's in taking an interest, having a curious mind, and just kind of moving in the topics, and they just move you from one topic to the next, right? What would I understand a Homo sapien to be unless I understood that word evolution, right? In my learning process and some of these new discoveries that have been happening in the past few years, how would I understood them if I didn't have a curious mind, if I didn't have that that passion for that curious mind in my interest and the things that I find interesting. And for me, there are lots of things that I find interesting. But when you say interesting, right? Curious is kind of attached to interesting, right? Because you're interested in that, right? Ooh, what's that? What's that all about, right? You're curious about that. Ah, what's that? What's that all about, right? It's almost exactly the same. And so those two words, right, they're also attached to this word learning. Because really, truly, you can't learn unless you really want to, right? Unless you're curious, right? Unless you're interested, right? Unless you have the capability to, well, see, concentrating is a learned process, isn't it? You know, um, I didn't really enjoy school. I found it very hard to pay attention in school because of my hypervigilance. I was always paying attention to my safety, whether the kids were spitting spitballs at me, or the teacher was going to ask me to come to the board or want me to speak, or right, or I was worrying what was going to happen at recess, or what was going to happen when I got home, right? I was not able to sit still and pay attention, to concentrate. Nowadays they label things, right? They label things, hypertension, ADHD, right? Like, but it's really difficult because these problems come from different reasons. For me, it was complex trauma. It was just my upbringing. It was a scary relationship that I had with my mother. It was the traumatic experience of being the only obese child that I ever knew growing up in the 70s. Obesity was not a commonality, right? This day and age, it's more uncommon than not to not be overweight. But I was obese and I had problems with that, and there was lots of programming around that, and being highly sensitive and being empathic. And I think, even though I understood these terminologies through the learning, through the interest, through the curiosity to know what was it, right? Getting a little bit of a lesson, a little bit of maybe a prerequisite, a little bit of an experience, a little bit of a conversation, right, to give me the heads up to say, ooh, what was that? Oh, that's curious. What was that? Right? And it leads you into that search mode. And that search mode, well, for me, it's more searching, right? Because I tend more now to be self-parenting in my lessons. I take a lot of lessons from a lot of people. But I roll things in my mouth, I digest it, I think about it, I wear it, I play with it, I experience it before I take it on as my own. Now, I do understand majority rules, and sometimes it's easier to take something on as your own because it's how the majority flows. And so when those circumstances arise for me, usually what I'll do is I'll feel it out, right? Is it something I can let go? Is it something I can flow with? Or am I completely agitated by even the thought of it? Right? And if that's the case, well, I have to look into that, right? I have to do a little bit of self care, right? Look out for my own well being because that's an indicator that there's a problem for me, right? And then that's when I go back and I try and figure out where it started, where those feelings come from. And then again, like what I'm doing with my laptop through the process of elimination, I get to decide for myself, right? What's wrong. I would never label myself. I see aspects of these conditions. I have aspects of ADHD, but ADHD is quite often mistaken, right? Because it has the same symptoms as complex post traumatic stress disorder, right? And empaths and highly sensitives also through that programming can learn to be empathic, can be programmed to be that way, right? And programmed to be highly sensitive. And it makes me curious because I do know I'm an introverted extrovert, right? Was I always extroverted, right? Was I always optimistic? But because of the programming, right, that we take on things that don't belong to us, right? Beliefs, understandings, right? And we have an acceptance in that, in our positions and our capabilities, right? Right? And we won't expand past of that, right? It'll be kind of like a ceiling. Oh, I'm a loser. Right? So anytime you ever try to do anything, you're just hitting that ceiling, right? Because you're consistently telling yourself that you're a loser or you can't accomplish things or I know. I've been there, right? And that was programming, but understanding that it was the programming allows me in my curiosity and in my interests and in my hypervigilance in the programming, right? There are rewards in that, right? And that hypervigilance, because it's in the hypervigilance that I munch on to some of these topics, right? It's in my hypervigilance that makes me curious and interested in, right? Like, ooh, what's that? Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I got you. And if I don't, I will, right? And you know, it's just like a scanner, like a scanner, right? And in my learning process, I found where there's lots of people, like in a classroom, right? I couldn't focus on the lessons, right? The things I was focusing on were the things that were happening right in that moment or could be possibly happening in the next moment, right? Never just right being in the class and enjoying the lessons. There were moments, right? There were definitely moments when it caught my interest and but it was only that I was able to control the environment that I was in a certain amount of capacity so that I could feel comfortable to learn. Now, I didn't wake up to any of these ideas. Like these ideas, I didn't have these understandings well into my 50s. Well into my 50s, right? Because that was the programming. And grateful some lesson came across my path, some experience, some conversation that went, "Ooh, what's that?" I need to know, right? And you have to have that courage and that bravery because the things that you're about to look at and discover, right, might be uncomfortable, might be really hard to understand, might be a little bit boring. And we know what we do when we're boring, but like I said, if you do baby steps and you mix it in you're right, like mix the turnips in with the mashed potatoes so you can get the turnips down. That's what I did on Christmas dinner. Couldn't leave the table until the plate was done. I did not like turnips, right? And I'd just mash carrots and turnips, every Christmas, and I'd mix it up in the mashed potatoes and take it down like it was medicine. And I'd have to do it right at the beginning of the meal. Otherwise, it was in that anticipation of, I wouldn't even be able to enjoy my beautiful Christmas dinner because I knew that pile of mashed carrots and turnips would be right at the end waiting for me, right? Sometimes I get the hard stuff done first, right? Sometimes I leave the hard stuff till the end, right? Only because of some things might have an emotional or physical priority in your life in the moment, right? And those are the really, really, really hard things. And sometimes they're not in the beginning of the day. Sometimes they're later in the afternoon or in the evening, right? And so you can't do them right off the hop, right? So usually on those days when I know I've got something big, I'm dealing with stuff with my computer, right? So I'm doing things for myself. I'm cleaning and doing other projects. I'm going to go for a walk and made myself a beautiful cup of coffee. It was perfect. I made myself a nice breakfast. And I very rarely eat breakfast, but I have been eating breakfast and I've been feeling so much better physically because I've been eating breakfast. But again, it might be that idea that, you're not eating breakfast. So you're just, right? All you're doing is you're not getting anything done because all you're thinking about is dinner because you're hungry because you didn't have anything to eat, right? So if you give yourself a little bit of something, at least when that thought of dinner hits your mind, you could just say, "Oh my goodness, you had toast this morning and a cup of coffee, or you made yourself some eggs, right? You're good, right?" And you could calm yourself down that way, right? Instead of just making yourself self miserable. So I try to mix it in, and just like what I did, right? I says, "Okay, we're going to end my laptop and we're going to reboot it, see if Cindy can, right, get another Windows onto her computer." And yeah, I hope it works out well for me. But I wanted to come in live because once I do that, there's no stopping me. I've been at it since 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to be at it till at least midnight tonight if I haven't got it figured out. If not, I'll be back in the morning and I'll be at it again. But it's that idea, that little bit of guilt and shame, right? That, oh my goodness, I'm wasting so much time. There was so much that I could have done today, right? At that stew beef, I was going to make my sister a little stew and, right, go for a bike ride. Tomorrow it's going to be raining, which would be a nice day for video editing. But, today was the day to get these things done. And here I am working on the computer, right? But it has been a learning process, and I am in a safe and comfortable environment. Okay? There's the key there, you guys. Safe and comfortable, right? and these are my my work surroundings and my living surroundings, right? And it's unfortunate sometimes, right? I'm not a lonely person. I'm not a lonely person, but I really don't have a lot of people coming in and out of my doors. Very few, in all fact. And how amazing it is here that I can make friends. And thank you, Sharon, for popping in the lovely comments. It was just really, really quite lovely of you. But at the same time, I wanted to say, but when I come in here, because I do my lives, I'm in a safe and comfortable learning environment. Didn't wake up to any of these ideas until well into my 50s, but because I'm in such a safe and comfortable work environment and home environment. Got no screaming kids. I don't have a needy husband, right? I work my job hours to accommodate another full-time job, which is in the creating of the best human being I possibly can. And this is an aspect of it. This isn't all of it, right? Me showing up here every single day like a loaf of bread. Well, I'm here with this show Monday to Friday. What's My Good Cheer is a Monday to Friday show. It's also a podcast. If you miss any of the live shows, you can go find my playlist. You can find my podcast playlist, and you can find this show if you want to miss any of the topics. This week we got learning, you guys. This is a good one because this whole process for me has been a learning process because I've been opened up to a world that I didn't even know existed. And that's a truth. But I think that I had introductions to do it along the way, but I might have missed some of the lessons. So those lessons that truly, right, in my late 50s, it might have happened much sooner if I had had some of those prerequisites, or if it had been part of my programming, right? You know, we can only bring on to ourselves what we surround ourselves with, right? Our parents, our siblings, our teachers, our coworkers, our peers, and we absorb, right? And as empaths, right? Quite often, and highly sensitives, quite often we just kind of go with whatever anybody else is doing, right? I am grateful that possibly my parents decided that we were going to make our own decisions as kids. And we did. And I got some lessons, but I missed a bunch too. I missed a bunch, right? And I think a lot of those lessons might have intentionally been hidden from me, or, right, or intentionally, right down my throat, take this. And that's what programming is this idea of, right, this person's right and you don't get to have an opinion. Your thoughts are wrong, your ideas are wrong, what your beliefs are wrong, and everything that you are is, right, the thoughts, the actions, uh the ideas, right, the 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 product, the tool, oh my goodness, the object, right? And we just absorb whatever, and we don't even get to discover that there's something to discover. Grateful to be woken up to these ideas, right? No matter what had happened. I'm peddling, you guys. I'm peddling 100%. But at the same time, I understand that one lesson is a prerequisite for the next lesson, you know? And I say, you can't bypass the lessons. I don't think you get to pick and choose the order, right? Sometimes the lessons come by your path, right? And in the patterning, if you didn't pick it up the first time, maybe it'll come back and you'll continually have an opportunity to pick it up. But if you never make that choice, it's never going to be a lesson that is absorbed, right? And all of this started with that. Ooh, what was that? Oh, hmm, I wonder. And we live in this digital age, and Google is amazing, right? You Google anything, and they'll have something on the subject, no question, right? No question. And I am a Google girl, 100%. I have subscriptions, but I go by my suggested videos and I choose from that. And YouTube suggests to me. And it's almost like a prerequisite, right? Taking in the lessons. And then you get another lesson, and then you get another lesson, right? But I would have to say this is new because the lessons, for the most part, that I had growing up were always in the experiences of what made me happy, right? And, I guess in that programming, I picked it up. I picked it up. But it didn't mean that I didn't pick up some of the yucky. And so they call those limiting beliefs, right? And you go in and you just figure out what happened. Where did it come from, right? And why is it stopping you in the things that you want to do, right? And it's true. It is a learning process. All of this, everything. My day to day, I make mistakes at 50. I'm not 57. I'm 62 years old. This month, I'll be 62 years old. And there have been lessons my entire life. But for the most part, I didn't understand that I got to have a say in them, right? That I didn't have to take somebody's perspective as a truth, right? That I got to feel it out. I got to choose, right? But not only did I get to choose, right? I had to put the movement towards those choices. And so in that learning process, and we'll talk about it this week about the learning aspect of the action, right? Because learning won't do anything. I'm full of, I got, right? Lots of us, we got all kinds of information. But if we're just sitting in our haunches where it's safe and where it's comfortable, right? I can make an impact here, right? Grateful for this digital age. Amazing, right? But those lessons are for me too, right? And I have to put those lessons into action. And because this is tied up with my passions, my interests, my curiosity, my movement forward, right? That all those other parts of me tie into this too, that this becomes the pathway for my learning, right? Then I watch for the disasters, like the laptop crashing on me. All afternoon, I say, oh, is this a sign to give up? You don't give up, Cindy, but how long do you do this for? Well, you figure it out. That's the way it is because I'll go put some money, I'll slap some money into it if I have to. Somebody has the answer for the problem that I have, right? I'm just trying to be a little bit of a cheapskate, I think, in the process, right? And maybe it's not a matter of being a cheapskate, it's just understanding where my tools and my resources lie in the moment, right? So I adapt and conquer, right? And it is a learning process. Everything's a learning process. I failed a big one this week, And those lessons that I've been learning, that I said in the beginning of the live, some of those things that I've been working on, right, right, just blow up in my face again, and I get a true feeling of that movement, right? That how I've moved my entire life, and um, how to reassure myself, because it's not a matter of of believing, because the idea and the thought is so instant, the feeling is so instant. And if you just popping in, the things that I've been dealing with in the past week or two is this idea of in guilt and shame, right? And for a few different reasons, but it's the idea of this sequence of the occurrences coming together, and the commonality between all of them, which is the guilt and shame, right? And because it's in me, right? These are things that I've got to look at. I have to learn. I have to allow my curiosity and my interest to say, why is that happening? Right? Why is that still happening? Why am I still allowing that to happen? Right? Is that something in the programming that's not able to be overcome? Or do I need to be a little bit firmer in my boundaries and in those promises to myself, even though I see the outside hurting, wanting, needing, and expecting more from me? I don't know. I'm curious about that, right? And because my interest lays there, I'm missing out on lessons as I'm learning these lessons. I'm not technically inclined, but this is part of my brand, and my brand needs to have me be able to do at least the very basics when it comes to editing. I did an okay job in my explore videos, and it was the first couple of videos that I had done on this program. It was fine, right? It's in the laptop and in the programming that I messed up itself. And once I get that all cleared, right? Once I got it all cleared, I'll be up and running, right? And don't be silly. I'm not going to go down like kamikaze, right? I'll have my parachute. I'll have my parachute on, because Cindy does play it safe. And today I think I just played it a little too safe, because already it's going on into the evenings. And I said I was going to reboot this computer, but no, I've been playing around just to see if I could figure something else out, right? No, this one got you beat. Learn from this failure, right? You learned lots in this. I learned so much in this process. 100%. I learned so much. And, I'm glad I learned it now, because what would happen if I spent a couple of days on a video, and it was all done and it was perfect and I was all proud of myself. And then all of a sudden, I hit a button and goes, and it's all gone, right? That would have been 10 times more frustrating than this, right? But I would have dealt with that. I would have dealt with that too. I would have ridden that wave too. And that's the thing. We just got to ride those waves. We have to adapt and conquer. And that is one of the very first lessons. If we're going to take this word learning, right? Well, why don't we look at adapt and conquer in how we learn, right? In how we learn. We live in a digital age, people. You could do it like I did. You know, I just kept trying. I started my YouTube channel. I did video diaries for myself. I researched. I let YouTube suggest the content, because I knew YouTube knew exactly what I'd watched, what I hadn't watched, what I was interested in, what I wasn't interested in, what I was curious about, right? And maybe they didn't go, aha, what is she looking for? Or what is she up to? Right? They didn't even have to do that because I'm giving them that information every time I Google. They know exactly that I'm having struggles with this right now, and I'd appreciate a few bots that would help to clear me up on this. But in any case, I'm going to let you guys go for right now. I have been heavy into this process. It's a learning process for me, but everything is. And you know, I'm going to laugh about this next week or maybe even on Friday when we tie this topic off of learning, right? It's really strange how these words they really come. You want to see here some of these words because you guys might be just popping into this process right now, but we're on word number 9. The words we've done in order were change, choices, respect, vision, gratefulness, comfort, risk, purpose. And this week we have the word learning. Lots of topics for us to talk about. This is probably one that we could probably go a couple of weeks on, but we'll touch on it here and there as we go along because we always know that half my lives are spent yibber yabbering about other things, but you never know. Hello, Melvin, dear. How are you tonight? Yeah, I just popped in to do my live. I haven't figured out my editing program. About to shut down my computer, reboot it, and see if that will do the trick. it's now it's now become a piece of raw meat in my mouth. But in that process of learning, right, I am interested, not so curious, right? Well, I'm curious as to what I did wrong, kind of have an idea. I just kind of played around with the files too much. I deleted my documents and my picture files. I deleted a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, I got to make some new homes for some of these files or maybe not because like I said I'm going to crash this computer and I'm going to restart it up fresh. You guys have a great day or a great evening now, and we'll see each other tomorrow, and hopefully, right, we have that great news because it has been a process. I'm learning, right? It's not fun. It's technical stuff, but it needs to be done, right? And when it needs to be done, nobody's going to do it unless you do it, right? Right? You're not going to learn anything even, right? I could get somebody else to fix it for me, right? Perfect. Dish out a few $100s, fix my computer, and then I go do it again. And then what happens? Got to dish it out another $300. Let's play with this. Let's see if Cindy can figure it out for free and then have it figured out so that the next time I do that, the next time I fail, right? Because I learned how to do it properly this time, right? That next time I might not have to go through that process. I'll have it down packed. I'll never have to go through that frustration again. I'll have some pride in being able to do it. I'll be able to go on to the next project, right? That I need to do, whether it's something personal or something towards my brand. I can tell you the whole world's passing me by online, right? I was able to get a couple of lessons in, but I'm missing lots because you guys have no idea how much time I spend online. Okay, back to work. Smile always, right, right. Whistle while you work. Da 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 da.